hadn't seen the news article that fleshed out why it was more than $1 billion. I could certainly believe it. I think it's probably more than $1 billion. And I think that there are a bunch of other scandals that are similar to Arrivescam all across the government. But are we going to find out about them? And is the money going to be returned? All our tax dollars spent on this waste returned? No. Are the people who did it going to be in jail? No. That's not going to happen. The best that I think we can hope for is that the government falls under the weight of the scandal. But even that, it's a reach. Remember SNC Lavalin, right? Remember all of We Charity. Remember all of the other scandals that this government has survived, and not just survived, thrived in, right? Able to get draconian censorship bills passed through the House and the Senate, while bills that are making food less expensive, like Bill C-234 that would take carbon taxes off farmers, languish and don't get passed, or get gutted and then get passed. So very, very concerning what's happening all across the West. And man, we've got a packed show, 75, 76 tabs. Sorry, everyone, it's a long one today. But there's a lot going on. There's a huge amount of stuff going on, and it just kept coming. Yesterday, I found out that no fireworks in Guelph this year. The Rotary Club, which usually does it, just bowed out. So for me, you would think that they would have known before, like 6 weeks before Canada Day, that they couldn't do it. So they're citing not enough personnel. They don't have the numbers of people to man everything, and not enough volunteer hours, et cetera, et cetera. So, we just can't do it this year. Sorry, everyone. And so like that's a big deal. Culturally, I feel like, while I don't blame Rotary, I feel like it's culturally Canada's further under attack, right? We have a diploma mill worker speaking out, and I think that's interesting. We've got Emergency Act violation news, and people talking about the violation of rules and charter rights to invoke the Emergency Act after the Liberals have been caught not actually. Well, they invoked the Emergency Act before getting legal opinions about it. So very interesting stuff. Remember the bridge that collapsed in Baltimore? The people on the boat have not been allowed to leave the boat since then. So that's at the end of the show today. It's just crazy. And Calgary, the City Council for Calgary votes for blanket upzoning. So what people have been fighting against, there were recall signatures and all sorts of campaigns to derail this idea of blanket upzoning, and now blanket upzoning is the law in Calgary. So this kind of policy is going to take 15 years to see the impact of, if it's allowed to continue. But it's going to fundamentally change the look of neighborhoods. High density slums. We don't want to live in high density slums. I don't want to live in a high density slum. Thank you very much. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we have to start with this. King Charles unveils his painting, his portrait, right? And so the blood red portrait, all of it is blood red. The blood red portrait looks weird. Like, did somebody get to it preemptively with a can of soup or what? Here's Charles. Yeah, it's all red. There you go. Whoa, okay, just clap and pretend that doesn't look terrible. Did somebody vandalize this thing already? Oh gosh, right? Like, what do you say about that? What does that make you think of, right? What does that? Oh, right. Remember the blood red horses running through England? Oh my gosh. Just coincidence. It's probably coincidence. Do you believe in coincidences still? Weird. It's a weird thing. Blood red portrait with a black. You see the black butterfly above Charles's right shoulder? Huh. Right? Weird. I think it's a butterfly. Or is this one of those blotches, right? The whole thing just seems really strange. So people are clapping and they're pretending that this portrait's good. Just like, remember Barack Obama's green portrait where he's sitting in like the green bushes and enveloping him or whatever? Weird stuff. So green and red castle, green castle. I don't know. Who knows? Forget it. Let's talk about Arrivescam, because that's Canadian. These kind of updates.
Has Mr. Zlonsky been in contact with anyone at CBSA since he's been summoned?
I thought I turned the speed down on all of them. I thought I got them all this time. Gosh darn it. Regardless, these updates, and I've got updates of other stories. I pick them up and I think, like, that's an interesting, weird thing. And I think that other people will think it's interesting and weird. And so I've got a couple of those stories to update you on at the end of the show today that I almost started the show with, but I thought, it's too weird. So it's not that weird, but it's just too weird to start the show with. Okay. Arrivescam. Arrivescam's $1 billion. Already $1 billion. Like, inflated to $1 billion. There's criminal investigations. And we've got a conservative MP who is grilling the CBSA president, talking about what's happened in her department. And he's asking her specific questions. We'll just get to it here because there's a little bit of preamble. He's asking her specific questions and she says, well, I don't know that. I don't know that either. And then he says, like, you'd think you'd be interested being like, in charge of the whole department. And then she gets mad that his implication is that she's not doing her job. She's not, though. Here we go.
Documentation CBSA has thus far provided to the RCMP.
I'm not tracking that. I'm not, the RCMP doesn't come through me for requests of the CBSA. They don't report to me. They will conduct their investigation and they will seek the information that they feel is necessary. I'm not going to track that. It's an investigation. They are free to come and obtain any information they feel is necessary.
Your lack of curiosity about an ongoing criminal investigation involving your department is surprising, that you're not going to track the information that is being collected or is being asked for, considering that there are quite literally criminal investigations ongoing involving employees at your department, that doesn't trigger any curiosity on your part. But I want to go back on
Mr. Chair?
It wasn't a question, but...
Well, but it's a statement about how I'm conducting myself.
Sure is. And it doesn't seem like you're conducting yourself very well. You'd think that the person in charge of the department would be interested in the things that the police are requesting. Like, hey, you're going to be the point person, whoever. Anything that the RCMP request, copy, put into a file, and put on my desk. I'd like to know what they're taking out of here, and I'd like to be kept up to speed on all of the investigations into specific personnel. Right? No? You'd think, right? While insulating yourself to make sure that you're, if you're innocent, right? I mean, maybe even if you're not innocent, but making sure that you can offer proof and assurances to higher ups and things like that you're not involved in the scandal. Right? You know what I'm saying? So, like, on one side, you should be holding people accountable and know exactly what's going on. You should have all the fingers in those pies because it's your department. And on the other side of things, you should be able to prove that your fingers are not in inappropriate pies, so to speak. Right? You're not allowing them to launder this money. Right? Well, I didn't see anything. Is that turning a blind eye? Right? Is that plausible deniability? Right? Like, you needed to not know, ma'am. Right? So, I don't know. But it seems weird. It seems real hinky to me, especially when we're talking about the kind of money that we're talking about. I mean, we're not talking Ukraine money, but still, $60 million is not chump change, right? Yet. If they print more money, it will be. Larry Brock says, cover up coalition at work. Watch the NDP Liberal coalition vote to shut down a hearing on Trudeau's $60 million Arrivescam with key witnesses at the table. This just one day after we learned Arrivescam contractors have made $1 billion in taxpayer money. So one of the Liberals, this guy, moves a motion to adjourn, and then the chair counts, and
yes, I do. Sorry.
All of that.
Just gentlemen.
So they go through the count, and the meeting is adjourned, and people are upset about that. And here's the Globe and Mail article talking about Robert Fife says 3 firms tied to Arrivescam app got $1 billion in federal contracts, Ottawa reveals. So, I mean, that's a lot of money. What did the country of Canada, what did we as citizens get for that taxpayer expenditure? I would hazard to guess nothing, right? I would hazard to guess nothing at all. Aaron says, imagine being a business that can't attract customers, so instead you pay people to be the customers. Imagine how ridiculous that would be. Welcome to Canada! So this is an Arrivescam, but this is similar. The battery subsidies, we've spent billions of dollars. I don't think quite 100 billion, but maybe I'm incorrect on that. I think more than 50 billion on different relationships with different companies to build battery plants in Canada that hire foreign workers to fill most of the roles. If there's 3,000 jobs, foreign workers get 2,000 jobs, and Canadians get 1,000 jobs, maybe if you're lucky, if they can't find the foreign workers. Know what I mean? So people are asking specifically, how much? How much is the federal government invested of our tax dollars? How much have we invested? Canadians, personally, right? And how good will this be for the community? And they won't answer that question. They won't answer those questions. We saw yesterday people trying to get answers for those questions, and they won't. So here's what's going on. Melissa says Canada was the third choice for the new Honda plant. However, after getting $15 billion with a B investment from the federal government, Honda has now selected Port Colborne for the EV battery plant. Look at the reactions in the back. So I think that it's very interesting. This is a good question. I think we will listen to, there's a few little video clips of this meeting, and we're going to look at a few of them. I don't know if this is the one that I intended, but this guy here has asked the same question as Trudeau yesterday. I've got that video. I don't think this is that one, but we'll see.
So frankly speaking, Canada was our third country to investigate opportunities for investment.
No, this is just the one where they're saying Canada was the third choice until they gave us $15 billion. So here's the one where he's asking about how much impact in the community. Port Colborne. I used to live near Port Colborne, and people we didn't go there very often from Welland, but it's interesting because it's a really, really small little community. Like has it grown in the last 20 years? Like I haven't been there since the early 2000s really, but it was tiny. I had a kid in my class, a fellow classmate, and they lived in Port Colborne, and they said it's like there's a street and maybe one light type deal. So it's a very small town. Maybe I'm understating how small Port Colborne is, but it just seems strange to have this big battery plant put there from my memory anyway. So interesting. Here's the question. What's the impact on the community? Yesterday, Justin Trudeau yelled at this reporter. Amazing Zoltan says, Al Sweeney is the CHCH reporter Trudeau yelled at during last EV announcement for asking how many Canadian jobs these new EV plants would create. Turns out Sweeney's a clever bugger. Today, he went around Trudeau looking for a clear answer, which he did not get. So we're going to listen to the question and then some of the answer, but not all of the answer, because they just kind of meander around and don't talk about the actual answer to the question. They just talk about generally things that are maybe associated to the subject.
Next question.
Hi, Al Sweeney from CHCH News here in Hamilton, or in this region. I have a question for Mr. Kudo, if I could ask you a question. Thanks.
Doug Ford's eyes when Al Sweeney was saying, I have a question for Kudo. Doug Ford's eyes kind of spoke volumes there. Hold on, I'm going to back it up just a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. It seems like he's, I don't know. It seems like he's kind of like, uh-oh, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. Here's Kudo.
Thanks. Can you tell us anything more about this decision? Why you decided on Port Colborne? What was it that attracted you here? And if you can say anything about the impact that you expect it to have on this area, the number of jobs, whether people from the area will get those jobs, that kind of thing?
どうしてここのポート交番に投資するということを決めたんでしょうか。ここでの魅力っていうのは何なんでしょうか。それから御社の投資によるこの地域による大きなインパクトっていうのはどんなものでしょうか。例えば雇用数ですとか、雇用するんであればこの地域からやろうかということです。
ご質問ありがとうございます。旭化成は正直言いますと2年から3年前から、
Our first choice was in Europe.
次はアメリカも調査をしました。
They don't answer the question. Just to not have to sit through that being painful back and forth, right? They don't answer the question, just like the Liberals don't answer the question, just like Doug Ford doesn't answer the questions. Here is Laura. She says, Ontario EV battery separator plant will employ a small number of, quote, short-term foreign workers, officials say. And Rex says there's a reason they're refusing to talk about how many workers taxpayers are funding. If the number is remotely significant, they would never shut up about it. Foreign workers setting up foreign technology that will employ next to nobody for $15 billion of our taxpayer dollars. Right? This is a wasteful thing to do. It is not going to help anybody. They're going to say, we're getting batteries. We're going to be world leaders in EV green technology. It's bullshit. It's nonsense. Absolutely, it's a fugazi. It's fake. Rob Primo says, to nobody's surprise, the CBC has zero interest in the hundreds of people protesting outside the building. Doug Ford and Justin Trudeau were in Port Colborne, Ontario today. They would only allow media who was funded by the government into the building to ask questions. Shocked? Nah, you're not shocked. You know what's going on. So they're tightly controlling the message. They're not answering questions they don't like, and they're making sure that $15 billion is going to fund this technology that is going to be out of date within a decade and doesn't really help Canadians at all. But hey, $15 billion, right? We get to eat that cost. Great. Blacklock's reporter is reporting about this. This is the Emergencies Act stuff. Yesterday, we found out that the federal government didn't ask the people that they should have asked before they invoked the Emergencies Act. That came after. And so Blacklock's reporter was on podcasts yesterday, Richard Straight on Saga 960. And why does this matter? He says, we live in a country where it looks like a federal cabinet made up a legal opinion to breach the charter rights of peaceful protesters, the truckers. How's that for a precedent for all time? And like, we've still got truckers and people who are dealing with consequences from that. And it's faulty. The government should never have been able to shut down the protest and lay charges the way they did, regardless of the rhetoric and the lies that they spouted. Dr. Lewis is responding to Arnold. Arnold is an MP as well, and he is a member of Parliament for Peace River Westlock. And he says, here's the timeline of events. February 14th, 22, Trudeau enacts the Emergencies Act. February 15th, 22, he receives legal advice from prosecutors. January 23rd, 24, Emergencies Act was declared unlawful. Not that the Liberals would have listened, but one day could have made a difference. So they didn't ask. Maybe they asked, but they didn't receive the legal advice before acting and enacting the Emergencies Act. And that's improper because it was illegal. They never had the right to violate the protesters' rights. And Dr. Lewis says the evidence keeps mounting. The use of the Emergencies Act to end the Freedom Convoy in 2022 was invoked prior to seeking advice from the Crown prosecutors, and the courts have deemed it unlawful and unnecessary. Canadians deserve a government that operates lawfully and with integrity. Somebody was saying this seems all like a show. Like the Conservatives, including all of the committees that are being adjourned and all the rest of it. It seems like a show that the person tweeting, and maybe I should have tagged it, but the person tweeting was implying that everybody's in on the show. And I can totally agree. I can see how somebody would come to this conclusion, and I would tolerate somebody putting together an argument that is indeed the case, that all 338 are all in on whatever globalist plan this is, and they're putting on a nice little show that looks like they're fighting for our rights, but the reality is they're not. And ultimately, if the Conservatives get in, they're going to violate our rights in slightly different ways. I saw Jeremy McKenzie yesterday on InfoWars, and he basically said the same thing. When the Conservatives get in, they're going to bring in Online Harms Act, but to make sure anti-Semitism isn't uttered, right? To make sure that no anti-Semitic people can escape capture or whatever it is, right? And like questioning the Holocaust would be an anti-Semitic thing that could land you in jail. Questioning history in a way they don't like could be something that lands you in jail. And people will, like, have you seen the people? If you say to somebody like Kevin Vung, which I said to this morning, sir, you're a Canadian MP, can you focus on Canada and not on Israel? People get mad, like upset. And my focus is Canada. I'm sorry, I don't care about Israel. I don't care about all of the things that we can't do a damn thing about in the Middle East. I don't care about anything in Ukraine, other than NATO expansion, because we seem to be courting this war by expanding into agreed upon territory that we wouldn't expand into, NATO wouldn't expand into from the 90s, right? So like, I feel like the West has violated our agreement with no good reason, right? And we're just poking the bear for no reason. So I think that we should probably disengage with all that. But people who are talking about, we have to fund Zelensky to win this war, and we have to fund Netanyahu to make sure whatever, or we have to do this, there's a genocide, or we have to do that, there's this, and that. Have you not noticed what's going on in Canada, for crying out loud? Like, we can't fix it. We can't fix the foreign country unless you're willing to send a well-supplied military to enforce what you want another country to do. You have no say in that other country. Period. Nothing. You can't tell them what to do. So why are we bothering to waste our time talking about it? It's a distraction from actually solving the problems here. And people get mad at you. So when the Conservatives come in, so it's been restructured that if you're fighting for Israel, you're fighting for Canada, or something to that effect, which I don't believe. I reject that. I think that's incorrect. If you're fighting for Israel, you're fighting for Israel, not Canada. But if the Conservatives come in and bring in this legislation, people will cheer for it. And if you say this is bad legislation because it limits speech, they will say you're a Putin apologist, you're a Zelensky apologist, you're a pro-Palestinian anti-Semite, whatever it is to silence you, to get you on board with the new crackdown on speech. And then people will start going to jail, but it'll be okay because they're anti-Semites. You see what I'm saying? I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what it seems like. Blacklock's reporter says, you know why everyone wants to see this phantom legal advice? Because it was wrong. A federal judge said the cabinet broke the law. So documents show the government waited until after invoking the Emergencies Act against the Freedom Convoy to ask prosecutors for advice. So I don't know what the timeline on the request for advice was, the invocation and the receiving of the advice. It could have been on the 13th they requested the advice, on the 14th they invoked the Emergencies Act, on the 15th they get the advice. Right? So like, I don't know. I don't know. But fundamentally, it seems like the legal opinion they used, which they said they had, which it seems like they don't have, should be public. And it's not. And that's weird, right? It's weird. Blacklock's reporter again. Holly Doan is responding to the Blacklock's reporter. The tweet I read earlier, why does this matter? We live in a country where the federal cabinet made up a legal opinion. She says access to information shows the Canadian Justice Department of Justice waited until after invoking Emergencies Act to seek advice from prosecutors. It's censored. It's completely blacked out, but they forgot to black out the date. They couldn't even do that right. Incompetence or whistleblower? Right? Was it incompetence on purpose? Oh man, I can't believe I forgot to black that part out. I didn't think that date was important. Let's do a grab bag of governance. We're being governed by people who know that they're doing wrong. They know it. They know it. And they're using rhetoric to claim that the moral high ground or something like that. But they don't even have that. Like, it's not morally correct either. True North, let's talk about governance. True North is reporting Prime Minister Trudeau has asked why he hasn't stepped down yet. People will cite this as us living in a free society. Like if somebody asked this of Stalin, maybe they'd be dead, possibly, right? Trudeau has different tools than Stalin had, right? Like you could have your whole tax life, audited, right? There are different ways to make things uncomfortable for you now than in Stalin's time. And in Stalin's time, you could get away with like cold-blooded murder, I think, more cleanly, but maybe that's just movies coloring my opinion of that. It really could be. But I don't think just because you can ask Trudeau this question, that signifies we live in a free society. Okay, here we go.
Minister, I want to ask you about leadership. Polls have put you 20 points behind the Conservatives, and it doesn't seem to be getting better despite your recent communications push from your budget. The public appears to have an overwhelmingly negative view of you personally, and you seem to have lost control of the conversation on some of the key issues that Canadians care about. I think the public might be looking at you and your position right now and thinking, for the good of the Liberal Party, why is he staying on?
Thank you for your concern, Laura. But as you see, we're here investing in good jobs for today and for generations to come. The world is in a challenging place.
It's the full stump speech, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't get into anything specific. Just, we're fighting for the middle class and those looking to join it. But he's not actually engaging in anything serious, and he doesn't actually answer her question. Duncan D is responding to a John Ivison piece, another warning about Trudeau from yet another cabinet minister, so a former cabinet minister. Trudeau has no apparent interest in the banalities of government, including the management of his cabinet or caucus. Ministers, senior ministers report that they rarely talk about their portfolios with their boss. In the 2018 book, Une Selfie avec Justin Trudeau, Jocelyn Coulon, a former advisor to Stéphane Dion, said the relationship between the Prime Minister and his then Foreign Affairs Minister was glacial, and the only private meetings the two men had when Dion was fired. The Prime Minister is a man incurious about the affairs of the world, Coulon remarked. Interesting, right? I wonder how often Justin Trudeau and Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly meet privately. Haha, that's a tongue-in-cheek comment. Mark Holland is the Minister of Health. I believe he's the Minister of Health. Maybe he's not anymore. Minister of Health. I nailed it. He says, in just under 2 weeks, 50,000 seniors covered under the Canadian Dental Care Plan have visited an oral health provider and received the care they needed. 50,000 people, right? In just under 2 weeks? From 8 dentists? How is that possible? Kevin Vung on April 8th is responding to Kate McKenna, and he says Trudeau's dental care program has no dentists, leaves out the middle class, and forces seniors to wait. Talk to dentists, many would rather retire or move to the United States. Net effect, less dentists in Canada. Unlike the Midas touch, everything Trudeau touches gets worse. Yeah, that's definitely true. And Here's Tanglefoot Daily's April 19th dentist thing. I was looking for, they had federal guys, Scheer and Polyev and a few others were specifically speaking about how many dentists have signed up, but I couldn't find the tweet, so apologies about that. But they were talking about how no more than, I think it was 4 and possibly up to 8 dentists that I had seen signed up. So 8 divided by 50,000 divided by 7 days. Let's just do that quick math. I forgot the dentists don't work weekends, so not 7 days, 5 days, right? You got to do it during the working week. So you've got the 50,000 divided by 8 turns out to each dentist that was on this program. I believe there were 8, but I could be wrong about that. So take it with a grain of salt. This is just some back of the napkin math, okay? 8 dentists, 6,250 patients per dentist in the past 2 weeks. Fair enough. And then obviously each day, that breaks down to 1,250. 5 days. That's 1 week. Hold on. We need 10 days. 625 a day. 625 a day. No problem. I mean, like, it's just a quick, you know, elderly person cleaning or whatever, right? For people who didn't previously have dentists coverage, right? Obviously this worked. Success, right? 61% of dentists declined to participate in the government's dental care plan. They will be delicensed for not, or will they be delicensed for not participating? That's a question. Will the government bring out the horses to force them to comply? Cabinet signature dental care plan, this is from Blacklock's reporter, is confusing and bureaucratic, with 61% of dentists declining to participate. The Canadian Dental Association yesterday told the Commons Finance Committee Health Minister Mark Holland said he was confident difficulties will be resolved. We heard from a lot of dentists. I'm sure you did. Falling apart, Toronto is facing a $26 billion infrastructure shortfall to maintain services over the next decade. Shocking. I mean, I'm not shocked, right? I'm sure Olivia Chow will know exactly what to do about this, and we'll just tax the rich to fix that, right? $26 billion, that's nothing to the rich, right? Kirk says, after listening to hundreds of speakers who were overwhelmingly against the blanket upzoning, Calgary Council votes in favor of blanket upzoning. Yes votes are Gondik, Walcott, Spencer, Penner, Wyness, Diwali, Putmans, Kara, and Mian. The reason they didn't want to plebiscite is because the Union PAC regressives on council already had their minds made up, and pushed by the special interest groups, some of them met and promoted blanket upzoning. What an incredible disrespect to Calgarians and all who spoke and brought more facts and evidence than the administration did. I've never seen anything less democratic in Calgary. What a shameful day in the city's history. Yep. Here's the Western Standard reporting the same. Calgary City Council votes against the wishes of 75% of Calgarians, approving blanket upzoning. They don't work for the citizens of Calgary. Most municipalities, the mayors, the councils, go look. Do they have their comments turned off? Can people respond to them? If no, I wonder why. Because it didn't used to be like that. It wasn't very long ago that you could engage with your elected officials and you'd have jokes and people would respond by meme, right, Cam Guthrie? And I mean, people were pretty okay with it. And then there was a lockdown, and then people got upset. And then the politicians, instead of being held accountable for the things that pissed the people off, turned off the comments. And that's not good. That's bad. They don't want to hear from you. They don't work for you. They work for Bloomberg and the globalists. Our cities have been usurped from being in control, or from our control, have been removed from our control, and now they are controlled by globalists, I think. Pierre Polyev says Trudeau shows up for a nice photo op, and then he refuses to answer a single question. Where's the outrage from mainstream media? Oh, right, they're bought and paid for. 90% of the salaries of the mainstream media, or a lot of the mainstream media, are paid for by the government of different levels, either the federal government or the provincial government. Here's gov.exe highlighting Jagmeet Singh. This is a little bit of electioneering. They're all trying to position for an election. Jagmeet Singh, I think, is in the worst position for an election because he has no money. And I don't know who would trust Jagmeet Singh to run the country, but certainly not a majority, and certainly not even like more than 15%. And even of the 15%, I don't know that anybody wants him being prime minister. Jagmeet Singh says Justin Trudeau is out of touch, and Pierre Polyev will cut and gut like Stephen Harper. And when he's prime minister, he'll use the power of government to force businesses into selling their goods cheaper to make life more affordable, which doesn't work. Who's more delusional, Justin Trudeau or Jagmeet Singh? It seems like Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau are both of the opinion that if you spend enough money, like forcing battery plants being built, Honda battery plants, VW battery plants, whichever battery plants, billions of dollars splashing around, right, makes people interested in being your customer because you're paying them, and that's it. And if you're a business and Jagmeet Singh comes and tells you how much you have to sell your goods for, and then your business is no longer profitable because you can't sell your goods for enough, then your business doesn't exist. It's not like you're going to sell just less and you're still going to get by. Your business isn't going to exist. Like maybe some will stay and sell less and kind of suffer through it in hopes of things getting better. But fundamentally, right, like the state control model is a very bad model for a lot of different reasons. Canada Proud reports new data shows that it takes the Canada Revenue Agency's 59,000 employees an average of 53 days to respond to emails from taxpayers. People are hired and they don't know what they're doing. They're not good at their job. Maybe they can't speak the language. I'm not sure. And so that results in very few people being able to actually do any of the work that needs doing, right? And that's bad. Mr. Nobody says, screenshot of my phone call log highlighted in yellow. And May 9th, 24, CRA website stated estimate wait time was 1 hour and 31 minutes to talk to a person. Automated voice on phone stated over 3 hour wait, 2 hours and 23 minutes before a human answered. Talked for 28 minutes, call ended 2 hours and 51 minutes. Okay. And Brittany is giving the same kind of first-hand account. She says 3 hours on hold with Canada Revenue Agency. It said estimated time 90 minutes, only for it to say due to technical problems we cannot answer your call. Goodbye, and then it disconnected. Like seeing red. When things like that happen to me, I'm so mad. If you spent all that time on the phone, like I've had situations where I'm the internet guy or like the computer guy for most of my family and some friends too, and so I've spent time on hold waiting for Rogers or waiting for the internet company or whoever it is, tech savvy, whoever it is, to get back to me or to pick up the phone. And you sit down on hold and you're looking at something that's not working or you're looking for a fix or something like that. And I've spent an hour on hold. I remember it was one like early morning and like between 6 and 7 in the morning. And I spent a ton of time on hold and I thought, why am I who is up calling at this time in the morning? How is this long? And then it hung up on me and I was so mad. Angry did not cut it. And I think I canceled the service and I moved to a different thing. I was like, nope, you're done. So when I get angry, I try and have action that backs it up. Like, no, I'm not going to give money to people who just hang up on me. That's not cool. But CRA, I mean, maybe that should be the policy. I'm sorry, you guys hung up on me and I just don't give money to people who hang up on me. There was a guy, and I've got the story later in the show, who made $100 million by invoicing Google and Apple, and that's it. Like for fake invoices, he just sent them an invoice and they pay him, and he was like, "This is great." And I think that if he had stopped at 50 million, he'd still be out. He'd still be fine. They would have just been like, "Oh man, that's $50 million of embarrassment. We don't want anybody to know. Just pay the man." I am not encouraging any kind of fraud, but interesting. He got caught. $100 million is too greedy, even from Google and Apple. The World Has Gone Mad says, I've had 3 near misses. Okay, so this is driving. That was CRA. This is driving. I've experienced this because like on the road, everybody has to be playing the same game. I've had situations where I've had to tell drivers, newer drivers, you can't do that. You can't just stop because of anything. Like you have to do what people expect you to do on the roadway. The only time you can deviate from what you're expected to do on the roadway is if there's an emergency, like a person's on the road, not a squirrel, not a turtle, a person, right? Like, period. And if there's a person, then like, yeah, do what you need to do, but you have to follow the rules of the road. You have to actually do what's expected of you. Now, if you come from a different country, what's expected of you may be different, right? And so what's happening is there are people who, I mean, I've seen tons of videos of people driving the wrong way on the 401 or on major 400 series highways. I've seen videos of people in the wrong lane going the wrong direction. I've seen like on residential streets as well. I've seen people on the light, like in a traffic stop light, making incorrect movements, just generally like making a left on a red, which seems like, why would you do that? That doesn't make sense anywhere. But regardless, making all sorts of mistakes that are outside of what is expected, and people are being negatively impacted by that. And so here's the world has gone mad. I've had 3 near misses in the last 3 days in Calgary. Guess who was driving the other vehicles? It was visible. If it wasn't for finely tuned defensive driving skills, I'd have been hit 3 times. With Trudeau's insane immigration policies, it's only going to get worse. Kian says, good grief, why are so many people suddenly dying from car accidents? What has changed that has made the roads so dangerous? Collision in Calgary reach 5-year high as worries mount over road safety. Rising complaints about bad driving attributed to increased use of dashboard cameras, driving instructor says. Oh yeah, it's those dashboard cameras' fault. It's not that it's worse now, it's that we're seeing more footage. Yeah, BS. Lori says, one of the stories that where your first reaction is, why hasn't this already been done? And your second is that car thieves won't care if they have a license. Yeah. Ontario to suspend driver's licenses for convicted car thieves for 10 years, for at least 10 years. Doug Ford gets asked, hey, Doug, why will thieves care about losing their driver's license? They're mostly foreign anyway. Like, they'll just go back home and drive truck and no problem, right? Like, or they'll use a different name and drive truck and no problem. Here's Doug Ford not answering. And it's the Liberal tap dance, right? Liberals don't answer questions they don't like. And Doug Ford is a Liberal through and through. He's not answering this question that he doesn't like. Here we go.
How is the threat of suspending a driver's license actually going to make a difference in stopping auto theft? Somebody who's willing to steal a car probably isn't worried about the consequences of driving without a license.
Well, thanks for the question. I've said right from the beginning, we look at bail reform, and we worked well with the federal government on bail reform, worked well with the Minister LeBlanc on that as well, making sure we tighten up Montreal Port, which again, we've worked well with Minister LeBlanc on that as well. I believe in mandatory sentences. Someone's going in, stealing your car or kicking your doors in, putting a gun to your head, which has happened on numerous occasions. They should be going to jail immediately.
And taking their driver's license away accomplishes. So if you're stealing cars, everybody understands that taking away your license isn't really going to do much to curtail you from your activity of stealing cars, right? It doesn't matter if you have a license or not. It just matters if you can physically drive the thing. It's why people don't often steal standard vehicles in the West, because most people can't drive them. But if you're in the drive-thru at McDonald's and you're on your phone, well, you're going to get a ticket, buddy. Seriously. CTV News in Saskatoon says, very expensive lunch. Saskatchewan driver handed a cell phone ticket for using Points app in McDonald's drive-thru. A warning from a Saskatoon driver about your fast food app while in the drive-thru line. A trip to get some free lunch cost him a lot more than he bargained for. I'm barely even moving. I pull up my app and look at the rearview mirror, and there's a motorcycle cop behind me. Mason Prima told CTV News about the moment where he was pulled over going through the McDonald's drive-thru in Saskatoon. He didn't think anything of using the app and needed it to get the free lunch that he had earned through rewards points. The officer came to his window. I just go like this and show him on my McDonald's app, loading up the code to get a free meal. He thought that would be the end of it. I did think that he was just going to let me go because I'm just trying to get a free meal. But no, it turns out to be a very expensive lunch, he says. Prima says the whole process was a catch-22. He needed the app to complete his order, and it's the first thing the McDonald's staff ask you when you pull up. So I don't know, I'd be appealing that. The reason it's shocking, according to a local criminal defense lawyer, is that there's a lot of gray area when it comes to the technology and the law. I feel for the individual that was charged here. He was in the drive-thru and not on a public roadway, criminal lawyers told CTV News. So I think I don't think I'd be accepting that. I would absolutely push back against this madness, because it is madness. It's absolutely crazy. And we have. Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful